Hi, my name is Aldemar Molano, and I'm going to talk about the arguing. Arguing is something interactive because arguing is a social activity. They need to have a minimum of two persons, two people who is trying to argue, and it has three aspects. So we're going to talk about it. It requires always there are some disagreement or something to agree about, and we're going to argue about it. So we have to think something different, or we have to know something different to the person who is talking with us. So we can talk or we can argue for different purposes. So there's not always some fight or some disgust between the persons who is arguing, because we can argue to make a deal, to make a business. We can argue to make an agreement, to get to a common idea with some person who not necessarily is an enemy or a person we hate. So we can argue in some cases in conflict. It must be it's one way to get an argument. So in some situations we can argue trying to get even closer with a person, to get a common idea. Okay, and to argue we have to have some items in common. So we have to have the same language, because we can argue with a person who has not the same language as us. In some cultures, you can't even think to argue with your parents or with the elders of the family. But in our culture, we can argue with every person. It's not necessarily to be a respectful person to have an argue, but in the way to construct something, we have to be a respectful person, even if we are not okay with the thing of the person who is talking with us. So the next the next thing to have in mind is the location, because the location and the context of the arguing is something to have we have to consider that as something important, because the context and the place you have the argument can change the absolute object or the idea of the argument. Thank you.